And so I'm going to start out today by introducing you to the six of us that are part of this presentation. Most of you know Judy and Martha and myself from previous conferences, but today we each chose a partner to bring balance into the energetic expression of our endeavor. Luis Alejandro will be my partner in the introduction. Paul Gerard will stand with Judy in the second part, and Ario Hensola will align with Martha in the conclusion. This wholeness reflects a similar equilibrium that has evolved in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals meditation over the past year, as we increasingly use the occult energies of balance, geometry, numerology, and fire to support the incoming new civilization invoked by the United Nations and the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Today, we creatively imagine the six of us configured into two triangles, one composed of the lifting vibration of the divine feminine, and the second holding the spirit of the divine masculine. We see these two triangles interlacing into a six-pointed star, symbolizing humanity as the fourth creative hierarchy and representing the geometric shape of the human kingdom, standing at the balance point of the intersection between spirit and matter, involution and evolution. We imagine the illumination radiating from this six-pointed star into and through the loving intention to serve as one planetary serving group. Let us begin by closing our eyes and breathing together in unity, as we stand in the midst of the wrestling forces that seek to challenge our stability. Let us reach down into the center, where the world is not spinning. We know this timeless space of communion at the midway point of the even-armed cross, where all is still and whispers divine order. Being able to hear the silence and the noise is how the integration happens as we hold both the old world and the new world in our experience. This is how we close the gap, compassionately. It is here that we bring understanding that the spiritual evolution necessary to move from a consciousness of bondage into a consciousness of liberation takes time and involves periods of trials in the transition from one way of being to another. As the one planetary server, we know about embracing the in-between for all we can learn and become in the process. We see the light, we become the light, we radiate the light. We know that radiance are we and power. We stand forever with our hands stretched out, linking the heavens and the earth, the inner world of meaning and the subtle world of glamour. We reach into the light and bring it down to meet the need. We reach into the silent place and bring from thence the gift of understanding. Thus, with the light we work and turn the darkness into day. At the last Seven Rays Institute conference, we stood in receptive and graceful attention within the vibratory energy of the 2025 conclave. We began to imagine all that we were receiving in readiment to shed our coats as the forerunners and take up the mantle as the torch-bearing one planetary serving group. We turned our gaze to the frontier, the wholeness, that all of humanity has encountered in their evolutionary journey to leave the old behind and enter the shadows with faith and trust. A consciously directed purpose to co-create a new civilization, a supernal home, aligned with the divine plan that we are certain lies just beyond the horizon. We have only just begun this homeless wandering, and each and all of us have already witnessed a plethora of darkness and disruption upon this new path. Wilderness times are painful and difficult, and most of us want to get out of them as quickly as we can. There is hardship and scorpionic challenge as the old is destroyed, transmuted, and transcended. The flames of the destructive fire become the illuminating force of regeneration and ignite the dynamic aspect of divine will, that free expression of the life of God. Fire that lights the way upon a period of significant change in order to clarify the direction for humanity. As the one planetary serving group, we carry this fire. We have learned from the teachings of the Tibetan that fire is the living energy of divinity, expressing as fire by friction, the fire of matter, solar fire, the fire of consciousness, and electric fire, the fire of monadic spirit. And it is this trinity that drives evolution through illumination, purification, and synthesis. As we have begun to enter the Aquarian Age, we, as the UN SDG Meditation Group, have sensed new and evolving aspects in our focus on the United Nations. Instead of its appearance as an institution, we are recognizing her as a conscious organism with a purposeful, indwelling spirit, aspiring to represent the one humanity. A living entity, infused by soul light, that is truly a center of synthesis, reflecting the many as the one. We are reorienting her identity from separative nationalism into a unified planetary stewardship. An Aquarian United Nations would decentralize power structures and empower networks of cooperation across nations, communities, and disciplines. Instead of authority flowing top-down, influence would circulate like energy in a field, guided by principles rather than control. In our weekly meditation, we incorporate group leadership and create a circulatory flow of responsibility as we voice the higher soul-infused correspondences of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. In the 8 years of practicing service, our meditation group has expanded and become a synthetic constellation of geometric and numeric configurations, of ray qualities and perspectives that meld and coalesce within a cohesive intention. We recognize her light, and we cooperate in the dynamic circulatory flow that is represented in the organic entity that is the true nature of the United Nations. We have brought this ever-evolving understanding into the subjective direction that we offer to the Deva of the United Nations, a co-creative thought form center that influences world reaction through high ideas, values, and shared visions. We increasingly sense this Devic presence as she listens and brightens in response to our loving intentions to strengthen global right relationship and the will to good. She and we are bridging the gap as we weave the thread of the ideal United Nations into the planetary Antakarana. A bridging between we, the people, and the higher principles of causal unity, wisdom, and will. A bridge that reaches into the inspiration of Shambhalic flow to anchor new patterns in human consciousness and world affairs. As the one planetary server in support of the divine foundation of the United Nations, a stronghold for the temple of mankind, we support her as a living heart and vital mind, strengthened by the directed purpose of the Christ and the energies of synthesis. We see her standing in magnetic beauty and radiating the love and harmony of the will and life of God. I now give you Judy, who will expand upon the potent process that lies within the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals meditation.
Dear friends, over the years, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals Meditation Group has shared various aspects of our meditative work. Today, however, as we move into the next 7-year cycle before us, I would like to offer an energetic understanding of our work with the United Nations based on the idea of balance, number, and fire when used with intention. Let me begin by stating the 5th Sustainable Development Goal. Humanity restores the balance of the divine feminine with the sacred masculine in its quest for wholeness, including within the structure of the United Nations, to bring forth the quality of love wisdom, supporting new heaven and new earth, gender equality. Here we recognize the balance that exists between the higher correspondence or soul impulse to Goal 5 and its lower correspondence or stated manifestation of gender equality. This balance between meaning and appearance is a focus for each stated goal. Today, as presenters, we are attempting to live into that wholeness, as Luis, Paul, and Aryo, our male group partners, join with us to support our offering. Currently, another aspect of balance in our work is to choose a global goal being addressed each week by the United Nations and supported through our personal effort by our focus and alignment with one of the Sustainable Development Goals. An example is the following. In the face of acts against territorial integrity, we direct light to support the UN Charter in its goal to, quote, prevent and respond to aggression and genocide, and to seek the peaceful settlement of disputes. And we hold Goal 16. Humanity embraces the culture of peace, justice, and strong institutions. Originally, balance was also an intended focus for our work when we shifted from working exclusively with the Sustainable Development Goals to dividing our attention and effort between the United Nations as a living entity, with its focus on right relations, in tandem with the SDGs, whose focus is on right sharing. While this was an important shift for us, as we worked with the balance of those two, what was perceived as missing was that aspect of soul leadership needed to support the United Nations in its work, not just as an organization, but rather as a living organism. And so we have added soul leadership as a recent focus to our work. Now our work is balanced as a triplicity, energized by first, second, and seventh rays. And as we know, triplicity strengthens balance. After we added attracting soul leadership as a focus within our meditation, I read a piece specific to enlightened hierarchical democracy offered by Jose Becerra through his Substack writings in Shambhala Observatory, which indicated that the three aspects of a successful hierarchical democracy, including an organizational structure dedicated to right relationship, enlightened leaders, and shared purpose. I recognize that these three focuses match that of our meditation. The last aspect of balance that I would like to offer regarding our meditative work is when we stand in the center of the even arm cross and invoke the vertical arm of hierarchy and beyond, and the horizontal arm, including the new group of world servers and all people of goodwill to support the plan. This is done prior to reading the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. In this way, we include all co-workers within the realm of humanity, hierarchy, and beyond to support the new Aquarian age in accordance with the will of Shambhala. In addition to balance, number with its esoteric significance has long been a consideration in designing our meditation. Through shared leadership, we have a core group that has committed to sounding our three-part meditation. Each week, a new triangle rotates in this role, each holding a point of tension to support our work. The first person of the triangle offering an alignment and sounding our purpose. The second working with the invocation and evocation to support our group efforts. And the third articulating our weekly group goal in astrology, and then closing with the three stanzas of the great invocation. This circle of leaders is 12 in number and is collectively the heart center of our group. The other focus of 12 in our work is that of the constellations, which guide us through the weekly astrological note. The reader circle of commitment stands as a lotus. The alignment which formally opens our meditation is a gift offered quarterly by each of the 12 leaders in rotation. In the past, energetically, I had concerns that perhaps a time of imperil, to quote white magic, might exist where the possibility of comparison and competition between those offering alignments might be generated, since this was seen as such an important aspect in setting the tone of our work. But instead, what has become clear over time is that each person who is offering the alignment is valued for their own unique style, and their succeeding alignments have grown both them and us in tension, strength, and focus. Group has become group soul. We have succeeded in operating as one planetary server. A further recognition regarding number is that while our readers articulate the three parts of our meditation, in fact, we have become unwittingly a 5-pointed star of voices, which includes a person to introduce the meditation, naming the triangle and opening with the mantra of light, and a facilitator at the end of our meditation who supports participants in sharing impressions. We close with the mantra of will. This 5-pointed star of group voices replicates the number 5 through the 5-pointed star within the organism of the United Nations, itself functioning through 5 centers: the Secretary General, the head center, the International Criminal Court and International Court of Justice, Ajna Center, the Economic and Social Council, the Throat Center, the General Assembly, the Heart Center, and the Security Council, the solar plexus. Humanity is also a 5-pointed star, and so the United Nations, which represents all of humanity through nation groups, parallels humanity in star formation in its group Aquarian aspect. When moving from number, let us now consider fire in all its aspects. When working with attracting and manifesting soul leadership within the United Nations, we work with the energy of synthesis, directed through the flag, soul of each nation, and this ripples out from delegates to leaders within each nation, as well as leaders within we the people of each nation. Leadership is a first-rate aspect. As the solar fire of each nation is invoked through its flag, we have visualized all flags as leaning inward, eventually touching and uniting, forming a single or unified line of fire. This union supports the fire of the Antakarana, with nations working together, reaching up toward the plan and planetary purpose. It is built through the soul fire of enlightened leadership, both a second and first-rate quality, electric in nature. After evoking soul leadership in our meditation, the United Nations as an organism is worked with in 3 phases. This includes first, increasing the light or fire within the planes in which humanity resides. This is done through directing the light, love, and power of the 3 jewels of the Buddha, the Christ, and Sanat Kumara, reminiscent of our work with the Great Invocation. Secondly, this is followed by cleansing any blockages to light on these planes through the technique of presence. Here we direct penetrating light or solar fire as a group, after which, thirdly, we visualize each of the centers of the United Nations in their radiant wholeness, as we name each center and their function. What has been happening unexpectedly during this process is that the increased light within each of the planes is becoming magnetic to the penetrating light aimed at the blockages. And so the light from within and the light from without seek to become one, and the blockages are becoming porous and letting light filter through. This is a new understanding of how to work with obstruction, and those very blockages are beginning to wear away. Light has become a purifying fire. Additionally, as light, love, and power fill the physical, astral, and mental planes, there is a new blending of all 3 fires, synthesizing the energy within the planes into a wholeness. This is the fire of synthesis. In fact, there is a new recognition that the 3 aspects of fire, by friction, which helps move one from me to I, or personality to soul, and solar fire, which moves I to we, or individual soul to group, and eventually we to us, or group to group soul, or one, are all aspects of the same fire that merge and blend in synthesis during our journey to wholeness. The last aspect of our work that I would like to speak to is the Sustainable Development Goals. 17 in number, which has its own significance. They are perceived in their wholeness as a single flow of conscious light that has already been attained. Their reading is no longer an aspiration, but rather an attestation to what soul consciousness looks like in outer manifestation. The words are directed to the devas, which then etherically surround the planet, where they seep through substance and touch everyone who can support their externalization. This is the manifestation of the plan, whose purpose is beginning to be realized. 2030 will bring these goals per se to an end, and through the destruction of form, we will likely see changes and shifts to a 20th century UN organization as it strives to maintain its essence as an organism for the 21st century. Both the goals and the United Nations have been firmly seated. On this note, I would like to offer the floor to Aryo and Martha, who will continue with an eye toward the future.
Okay, I am now reading this text which Martha has made, because she can't read it with her voice now. As we visualize the United Nations as a living organism manifesting on the fourth plane of humanity, we attribute to it soul consciousness itself passing into and through initiation. Let us, as the one planetary server, register humanity's great achievement to create such a framework that is now being tested and challenged to reconstitute itself into a globally networked constellation. The future of the United Nations depends upon the collective emergence of all, privileged and poor alike, in its task of redemption from greatest evil, such as the scourge of war. Such a body carries within it the karmic burden of every country. Further, its most important co-founding country carries within its spiritual DNA that which has remained behind from Atlantean failure. So its burden alongside its opportunity is great. Let us then think upon the fact that everything depends upon this collective emergence that arcs toward good order over chaos. Chaos is not meant to define the confusion caused by the massive innovative developments in the technological world. The chaos I speak of is the primary tool of dark forces seeking power over free choice, disqualification over essential divinity, scarcity instead of abundance, competition over cooperation. Let us look, however, to the ever-expanding growth of human conscience, already crafting a different mindset about sovereignty, energy, measurement that has become imprisoned in using money as the measuring stick. Goal 3, which speaks of well-being, is the sturdier measuring norm. Goal 10, which speaks of equality among nations, will be far more effective in distributing responsibility, accountability, and transparency all around. Since the conclave, the one planetary server, is growing manifest, which means esoterics will translate their inner experience into language that is accessible to all. So let us imagine a United Nations that is in service to the fifth hierarchy. yet speaks the language of the common people. In this iteration, the United Nations is without walls. It has developed a new paradigm, a globally networked constellation, other than the current one, which was forced by the democratic framework in the United States. Then it was based in reason. Now, however, reasonable humans recognize that reason is not enough because it lacks the quantum field where everything is possible. Already other countries are developing different frameworks to promote human dignity, inclusion and participation of all peoples who live in diverse cultures. Let us use a model already known by esoterics. The six-pointed star system based in the number 7 dynamic called the 7 rays. The 7th ray will be at the center instead of the 4th in our adapted system. Whichever system we build upon, it must be pragmatic and malleable, yet follows the principles of the ancient Egyptian goddess Maat: truth, balance, harmony, order, morality, justice, and reciprocity. These principles are commonly called Hermetic principles. It will include the wisdom humans have drawn from the stars and these ever energized in cosmic principles that radiate cosmic light, love, and will to good. It is an intuitive architecture based in quantum realities offered expressed in sacred geometry, numbology, fire and space. Three guiding principles we already know become the platform for this creative leap. Let us call the first the principle of remembering what is most whole as humanity has progressed through time. Second is taken from Egyptian mythology, where the term mother was sexless. We have here to think about becoming mothers as we heal the imbalance created by misuse of power. Already we have goal 5, gender balance, paving the way. already both men and women today demonstrate their effectiveness as mothers. Separatism shifts to sacrifice not by abnegation, but by building, by healing, make holy what has been segregated. Thirdly, let us imagine a framework that is based on what is known as the wholeness of right relationship, a term used in the Earth Charter in 1998. Resolutions are crafted into covenants where each issue becomes indivisible from every other, where reciprocity of energies are in balance. Let us begin with the 5 sectors of the current United Nations system and attribute spiritual significance to each of those 5 as we add 2 more. First, the Office of Secretary General will intensify diplomacy-based strategies in every country and building global terms and are pragmatic, creative and experimental. They will design schemes that intensifies creative practice. Second, the courts of justice will serve to apply the divine law of synthesis, magnetic attraction, and economy that demonstrate justice as a building block for civilized societies over punitive constraints. Impunity for the heads of state will end. Skilled organization who can identify corruption will have easy access to those courts and welcomed to present their findings based international law already established.
Thank you, Arjo. Thank you for your presence. I'll finish it. Thank you.
Yeah, this also needs my also voice start.
You did very, very well. I wish I could speak a second language as you do. So with
thank you.
the third arm, the General Assembly that now includes committees, 6 committees who decide which proposals come before the floor of the Assembly, as happens in the U.S. Congress. They will be streamlined into one council composed of heads of state, coalitions of specialists, and skilled workers. It will choose issues to be brought before the floor based upon those most urgently impacting the common good. Fourth, our Security Council will end the veto as non-existent and irrelevant and obstructive, and will focus upon the urgent issues, discussing them dialogically. Their first priority will be to confront these issues and advise the General Assembly what are best practices that are working with individual countries. Fifth, the ECOSOC Council, that is the Economic and Social Council, which is already building on a current trend to create interagency task forces that provide the best available data to issues in need of addressing, including cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, finance for development, and norms, different norms for measurement. Today, they call the economy not a monetary economy, but the real economy. It can welcome specialists over academics or professional diplomats from every country to participate in policy development. This should include labor like fisherfolk who know how to repair the corals. It will also be intergenerational. Added to these dimensions, we foresee a sixth point, made up of civil society, whose presence will interpenetrate all points of the star. It will become a training center for effective advocacy and a sounding board for or clearinghouse for those perspectives that project good ideas and innovative breakthrough plans that benefit people. It will be tasked with diversifying our economic system in several interlocking ones, thereby making it more difficult for wealth to land in the hands of the few. Finally, the seventh component, called the Council of Elders, standing at the center of this circle, will be inspiring leaders, including teachers, those who have inspired ways to which humanity is already transforming through awakening intelligence. It will work closely with the Office of the Secretary General, but will serve a more creative function, impulsing this network of teams, as mentioned early, into impulsing creative action. Further, this council is open to the public based upon the issues at hand and will hold its meetings open to all. It will provide a kind of TED Talk communication hub that captures the attention and interest of all people so as to increase all people's investment into creating a peaceful world. These meeting spaces will highlight the thoughts, especially of children, and become part of their education into a one-world system, training them to develop skill in founding outlets for their insights and respecting the particular cultures in which they live. Children will be the assets that help us prevent any monoculture from dominating. What will it take to get humanity to embrace a more workable, integrative model? I suggest 3 shifts of mindset that will be immensely useful and more soulful. Prioritizing the buy-in of more people, achieved through quality education. This mindset of mother, which has no gender, as described earlier. And the attitude of infinite and comprehensive interrelatedness based in quantum models already present today. If exoteric others are already thinking along these lines, why can't esoterics? And let us close with the mantra of the will, as we do in our regular meditation. All of us will turn on our videos as we say this. Martha's having trouble finding hers. Please begin.
Wherever Andrea is.
Andrea, are you ready?
In the center of the will of God, we stand.
Not shall deflect our will from his.
We implement that will by love.
We turn towards the field of service.
We, the triangle divine, work out that will within the square.
And serve our fellow men.
Thank you.